for the cops.
Yeah, I was here a minute early.
Not here.
That one's wrong.
We are live.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Keizer Police Beat Task Force to order at 6 p.m. It is Thursday, September 25th. Do we need to call roll? Okay.
Andrew Copeland, Keizer Police.
Adam Brown, City Manager.
Counselor Dan Kohler.
Counselor Shane Star.
Counselor Kyle Jordan.
All right, thank you. So the purpose of this meeting is to start our work on the Police Speed Task Force. And I think the first item that I would like is for Mr. Brown, for you to bring us kind of do a recap, if you will, of the conversation at, I believe it was the June meeting of the City Council that led to this task force. Kind of what we, and then what we committed to at that meeting, and then we'll bring it back to talk about next steps for this task force. Mr. Brown?
Okay. At the budget meeting and it was actually after budget committee meeting, the council meeting, there was two motions made at that meeting. The first was to delay the implementation of the proposed 69-cent increase in the police services fee. And then the second meeting was the second motion was to establish this committee to look at the needs of the police department and come back with a recommendation. The 69-cent fee addition to the current fee was recommended to come back or requested to come back no later than November, the second meeting in November for consideration by the council. The stated goal is added to the motion was that the purpose was to have an advisory vote on any increase in November of 2026. I think,
Here.
yes, yep, at the midterm election.
Thank you. And Mr. Brown, after reviewing that kind of conversation and that summary, I believe we requested that second meeting in November because we expected to know what our first kind of influx of property tax revenue would be by that meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, because it would be after the long range planning task force.
Okay. So that just, I think, gives us a level playing field, and kind of brings us, reminds everybody kind of how we got to here. So, I think the next thing is I want to talk about this, and I think these are all interconnected, the scope of work for this task force, any information that's needed, and then what our next steps are going to be. And we know that that one item that we have in front of us is that second meeting in November conversation about the implementation of the fee that would be effective, the 69-cent increase that would be effective on January 1. And that, refresh our memory, Mr. Brown, that 69 cents is equal to approximately $90,000.
I think you're on the mark for that. Yep.
And that's for the whole year of 2026.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Counselors, does anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay. So I think one of the things that I have a question on that I think is important for this task force to look at is data and trends. So if we look back I was not on council, and I don't think either Counselor Duran or Fuller were on council when the fee was first implemented. Am I correct? You were not, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, so not, so we're newbies, to have this conversation, so to speak. The, could we look at, I think the question, here are the questions that I would have. What was the population when we implemented the police fee? What were our calls of service and the types of calls? Because I think when people think about calls for service, oftentimes it might be like a traffic stop. But now we have there's a lot of different types of calls. So I think I think the types of calls and the number of calls, and then that same data every year, population, the number of calls, the types of calls. So we can see from the point it was implemented to now. And then, I think it's important that we understand. So I, over the summer, took the liberty to do some ride-alongs at different times of the day. So I did an overnight one, I did one on the weekend, I did one during the day. Just to get an idea of what they were seeing every day. And so I think it would be really important for us to hear from our law enforcement team what it takes to do a call, because number one, on one of my ride-alongs, there was a traffic stop. But because it was a traffic stop, there was like another 10-minute report or 15-minute report that had to be filled out after the traffic stop ended. So like that whole traffic stop was probably, in my estimation, and I didn't write down the time, start and stop times, but it was probably like 30 minutes all total because of, and that's not the report that he had to fill out. There was just a separate report that the officer had to send into the state because it was a traffic stop. And it was a demographic report. And then there was probably the report after that he had to fill out later when he came back. Then there was another call. I actually think it was the same night. It was kind of a bad night. There was a fight. And so there were a number of cars, right, of officers that were on duty. So that took all of our officers, I think, off the road because they all came to that call. So I think so when I ask for the type of call date, when we're looking at the data, I think it's important for people to understand that if it was a traffic stop, sure, it was just that one officer, but how long is that? But then there are other types that take all of the officers and for how long it goes. So I think those are really important data points. And information to have an understanding when we're having these conversations and making those decisions, because it's not just a 15-minute thing. Counselor Fuller, were you going to say something?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Can we get also a list of the types of officers you have? Because I think that the ones that are working traffic is probably our smallest group now, is that correct?
Yes.
And so when we have somebody that's working on a child molestation case, they can be working on that for weeks, if not months. And then what does that do to us? And the number of those compared to the calls that take a lot less time. Do we have enough officers to do the things that we need? That's the question, isn't it? And how do we, as a council, look at this and say, this is what we have decided because it serves our community better, and how that works. We have to be able to justify that. If we decide as a council that, yes, we want to push for a 69-cent raise, we're going to send that to the voters. We have to be able to justify why we're doing that and be able to explain our position.
You get Counselor Fuller, Counselor Grant?
Yeah, I kind of was gonna say the same thing, so I've been involved with officers for situations that have happened near my company on River Road. You know, there was burglaries at the pizza parlor, there was a robbery at the bar, a robbery at the, or a burglary at the gun shop, and I've provided video for all of these instances along with. Yeah, and traffic accidents and things like that, I've provided video for this, and it, even though I see this kind of not regularly, but multiple times a year, I'm surprised at how many officers are involved in things like this, and people need to understand that.
Why, that thing.
Right, right. I mean, there may be only 3 people on duty in the evening, but when there's an incident, they need more than that, so the people are called in, you know, and so that's the thing, there's, you know, I may only see one police officer driving down River Road in the evenings on my cameras when I'm watching, but if something happens, there's 3 or 4 officers there within minutes to take care of what needs to happen. And people need to understand that there are officers available to handle things at all hours, at all times, for all instances. And we need that for this city, so having a little bit more understanding of what's, you know, what the resources are and what the expenses are for these resources. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to be able to offer to the people that ask questions, well, I only see one police officer, well, yeah, you only see one police officer at a time. But they're out.
But 3 or 4 of them might have been at another call at a business, a burglary or something,
Right.
or a, you know, a violent crime at a home or something like that. So they can't be everywhere else.
Right,
when
they don't
that
need.
many. Exactly.
But that's the thing, people need to understand, we have a police force that is available and is ready to take action when we need. So I kind of feel like it would be a good thing to give people the understanding of what we have and what we use here in the city, and not, well, we just have a few officers on duty. There's a lot more behind that.
Okay, great point, Stacey, Counselor Duran. Also, oh, it just left me. I know, I thought it was really good. So, let's see. Scope of work we talked about, oh, I know what it was. There's a standard, I think, somewhere of staffing numbers for population, and it's, I don't know who does it, but I think it's like a national policing best practice entity. So if we could get that report or that data, and then the comparators around the state.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And when we do when we do those comparators, can we include the property tax rate that those cities are paying?
Yes.
Thank you.
And their size, right?
Yeah, but I think they have a standard set of comparators that they use, right?
Yes, it's different nationally versus kind of West Coast.
Okay.
Nationally, it's gonna be way higher,
Yeah,
just because East Coast and some of those areas are different. So we'll do both. We'll
Okay.
do that, and then we'll be more specific to Oregon, use our comparables and then the tax rates within those.
you have a set number of like identified already who in the state you use as your comparator,
Correct.
right? Thank you.
And who are those?
Without naming all of them, it's gonna be right around the same population size, but also geographically, some in Corvallis, Woodburn, Lake Oswego, McMinnville. Help me out here, Grants Pass, I believe they're the exact same population size, although they're down south.
Pretty darn close, I think you.
Maybe Oregon City, Milwaukee, those type of cities, they're right around 30,000 to about 45,000 in population. We try to stay kind of north of Eugene, and Garrett's gonna be the one to be able to answer those more specifically. He pulls all those numbers and does the data on those, but we certainly have them. I have a list.
Thank you.
It's also differs by the type of community you have. We're a bedroom community. And so a lot more homes and maybe less businesses than other communities. So there's a lot of variables that go into the right police staffing for size for that community.
So along with that, as you mentioned that, we also share resources with the neighboring communities, county and the city. So that's also a consideration. When we need help, they're there, and when they need help, we're there. The police force, so that's also takes resources, especially with like our reconstruction expert and things like that. And canines and specialty units, that too makes a difference because none of these main, the main resources we have in the area can do things without the help of the neighboring community officers. So I think that's something that is a good point to make. Say, we can keep things small, but we also have the availability and we also have the requirement to go help those other agencies because we get help from them.
Counselor Fuller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This last year or so, we've made a substantial investment in license plate readers. If you could give us some idea how that has changed, some of the policing methods and what costs that has brought down or increased, depending on what that has done, would be helpful also.
One thing that I thought of after doing one of my ride-alongs, because I saw my life flash before my eyes going code 3 lights and sirens down River Road, because there was a SWAT call out in another community. And I know we provide officers to, so I think understanding this kind of goes along with what Counselor Duran was asking. What does that look like when who are we providing resources to and how, I'm more interested in how often and what that does to our staffing.
Sure.
Because
And
he was,
costs.
and costs, because he was on duty here in Keizer and got called out somewhere out of Keizer. So what does that do to our staffing? I think that's another thing that, did we call somebody else in or were we just down a person or, and those are, I think, all questions that I would have never thought to ask if I wasn't holding on for dear life. Flying down.
It's fun.
I'll get back to you. Probably don't want me driving a vehicle that passed down River Road. Any other information, counselors, that we think we might need? Mr. Brown, Chief Copeland, is there anything that we haven't asked for that you think we should have asked for or that you would want us to know?
I think you asked for it, the history of how we got the fee we had. Actually, none of us were in the positions we're in at the time, that we're in right now at that time. But the history of it was that they asked Chief Teague what he would need to have a complete whole police department, and he identified 5 positions, and that's where the fee was based at. And each year we adjusted that fee based just on those 5 positions, even though it wasn't legislatively connected to it. That's kind of what we based the increase on, but it's not just the 5 that we've had trouble keeping up with inflation on. It's the other 45 that we've had trouble keeping up with.
And I think that's a good point, Mr. Brown, to also include in the information, that like the the costs that have gone along over the years. So it's not just the number of calls, the types of calls in the population, but the costs. And I want to be clear that many of the costs are factors that are out of our control. For example, the PERS increase, the rate increases, right?
Yeah.
The health insurance rate increases, just, and also the cost of living. I think there were 2 or 3 years where our cost of living were 7-8%. So seeing what that cost of living every year was, the cost of the insurance increases, the PERS rate increases, those are all things that are out of our control. We just, and things increase, gas, right? We don't control that. Our insurance, not just our health insurance and our dental insurance, but our general liability insurance, right? Our workers' comp insurance, like all of those increases, we don't set those. So I think that's important to be looking at that, because that all goes into the cost of providing public safety to our community.
There's a lot of things with the cost of those items go up more than the cost of living. So you have the cost of living here, and then you've got spikes of vehicles, fuels, and things like that don't follow that curve.
Yeah, along those lines, you're looking at maintenance for vehicles, cost of vehicles, equipment. I mean, it's like everything exponentially goes up. I mean, it's like you mentioned, you could go down every line item within the entire city for that matter, and just like everything costs more money. And it's the same product we got 5 years ago, but it just costs more. The one thing I thought would be beneficial to make decisions, what happens if we don't? What does that look like if we lose our current staffing levels? I think we've done a good job over the last couple of years. We haven't been able to fill positions as much as we wanted to, but we are. I mean, we're currently filling those positions, and we're almost to the point where we're like, finally, we are down 5, 6, 7 officers for a long time. We've been doing a robust hiring process. We've been continually hiring. We're really close to where we need to be. But what happens if we stop, right? What level of service are we going to lose? And so those are the questions, like what happens first? Okay, we're going to lose money maybe this year, next year. Is that 1 officer, 2 officers? What does that actually look like? And where do those officers come from? And then that's your guys is like, okay, what do you want your city to look like? I think collectively as a group, I mean, City Manager Brown and I can agree with what we want it to look like, but it's really you guys are funding all of us, right?
Yeah.
If we have to get rid of something, and I'll detail out every position, what every officer does, whatever detective, crew member, traffic officer, school resource officer, which is funded by the school, so that's great. But what does each position do, and which one do you want to see go? If we have to get to that point. So it's a decision we'll have to make together. But at least you guys will be armed with that information. It's like, okay, this is what it looks like moving forward. So we can do that, certainly can do that. And especially when we detail out each position within the organizational chart, and then provide that to you and say, okay, this is what it looks like if we lose this position and this one and this one. So we can do that.
I want to say it's, it's kind of like medication too. They say stay ahead of the pain, right? It's tough to catch up. And for community crime in a community, I would think it would be very similar to that. You want to stay ahead of it, not get behind in a position where you're trying to catch up, letting things bad happen.
Another thing is, other things that we can do, that we've already implemented, that we can increase, like the cameras, what has that done for us? And I think that's kind of touched on that a little bit, but what are the technology things and the options we have to increase that may save us a little bit in labor or cost us in labor, but give us a better benefit overall to the community. Those kind of things would be good for us to either, point out or just say, hey, this is what we're working towards. You know, we know that the parks have, cameras have helped.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what we've talked about, and increasing those could help us exponentially to some extent. And things like that would definitely be good, because we're not just talking about offices. There's a range of things that, you know, money can be spent on within the city that'll benefit or inhibit what what we're spending on, and still give us a benefit overall.
Sure.
Alder Fuller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. But there's several notes here from listening to you, so thank you for having, if you need more.
Brand new pen.
One of the things that I think we need to factor in to all of this is, what is the happiness of our force? Are they happy to be here? Are they happy to serve the public? Do they go out on the patrol and go, oh man, I hate being out here today? Or is it like, man, I work for a great community? So, the happiness of the force. And what I hear from the public a lot is, I don't want any more taxes. I'm stretched to the gills now. I can hardly breathe. I don't want to pay anything more. Okay, so we have got to be able to take that and be able to justify it.
Mhm.
So we need tools to be able to justify that. And, you know, Counselor Duran talked about the efficiency rate, but also want to talk about the conviction rate too. Are there things that we can do that will enhance our conviction rate? Maybe body cams. I don't know, whatever it takes to make our community safer in the most efficient way is probably some of the things we should be examining. And the other thing that I just kept thinking about was all of these towns that we do have comparisons with, they don't have a downtown. We don't. We just don't have a downtown. And I think that makes a difference in the necessity for the patrols and the number of officers.
Alder Fuller? I'm not sure if this is a Chief Copeland or a Mr. Brown question, but where, if I remember correctly, our body cams were part of our ARPA funding allocations. Where is that project?
Really close. So we have the cameras, we have Motorola, we're waiting on Motorola because they're like, in order to install these things and to deploy them, we need to come give you the training. Thank you, Motorola. They're really good at selling a product. It's a phenomenal product. It's going to work amazing. We chose it because of the integration with the car camera systems. You've heard this argument before. And now we have the product. We're ready to install it. And now we're just waiting on them to train us. So Lieutenant Hine is obviously the one I can have a better answer with. He was sitting right here right now. He has the dates on his calendar as to when that's occurring. But I mean, we're so close. So we do have all the product. Thank you very much for funding that. And now it's just a matter of doing the installs and the training around it, which the training isn't putting the body camera on and turning it off. It's the upload to the DA's office. It's the upload for our property and evidence folks. It's like, where does it go? How do you upload it? It's all the behind the scenes after the incident's over and you have all this information, tons of information that you're ready to give to somebody. How do we give it to them? And then we want it to sync with the cars. And that takes install people that are smarter than me and anybody within the walls of the department to come do the install and the configuration and just make sure that it's all syncing correctly and uploading to the correct cloud. So it's IT people, Motorola, and cops on the back end. So it's happening soon. And I can give you a better update
That's
with Lieutenant Hine coming.
Louisiana is great.
So,
And just one more.
sure.
What, if I can remember back to February of 2022, when we were sitting in Starbucks, I've just been appointed to council, and I was talking to you about this project. And I think it's important, this was something that, I think, I remember you saying that both community wanted it, right? to ensure good policing, but also our officers wanted those body cams. Can you just kind of refresh our memory about?
Yeah, so we did a trial and error for about 6 months with the Motorola's where officers were able to carry it. They didn't, it was kind of clunky how we stored it
Yeah.
and the DA's office got it wasn't great. But not nearly as efficient as it's going to be, but then we loved it. So you're able to capture an incident and it takes a little, now you're talking about time and efficiency. It takes longer to write a report because now you have a body cam that's capturing everything and you can't just say refer to body cam footage, right? You have to kind of detail out what happened. And now you have, instead of, hey, here's a summation of what happened, you have exact words. But it also, and this is, I did a PowerPoint on this when I was at the FBI National Academy back in 17. Body cameras reduce complaints. So, and officers are excited about that because usually they say the right thing for the right reasons, and we can prove it now. So, or, it helps hold them accountable at the same time. So when a body camera's on, they know whatever they say and whatever they do is now on video. We have the car cameras now, which have a microphone we have a lot of video and audio. Currently, this is just going to increase that, make us better at what we do, but also hold ourselves accountable and the public accountable too for what they say and how they act as well.
Thank you. Counselor Duran and Counselor Fultz.
So on this,
Like.
also this,
You'll hear this, right? Yeah,
uh,
that's what.
Mhm.
That can be that, broadcasting.
the cameras, the technology, is that something that is gonna increase cost of personnel a little bit to manage it? To me, it sounds like it's good because now you've got to, gotta be able to get the information, it's documented on the camera, it's documented in the report. And now somebody has to go when it's requested or it goes to trial or whatever, it's gotta be pulled up and presented in a certain way. Does that cost us money? Does that cost the DA's office money? I mean, is that something that we need to be prepared for that to increase? As it becomes more widely used, it's like, oh, now we gotta have another. And maybe it's not it can be just a staff member, not a sworn officer, and those kind of things. If that's used more, is it gonna increase the cost a little bit? Although I believe even if it did, it would be a benefit because it's gonna, it may increase or decrease the complaints, but it could increase the requests.
Yeah, that is a great question. Until we actually implement this program, I don't know the answer to that. Our property and evidence scouts very comfortably within, they think they can manage the evidence because it's all gonna upload into a cloud-based program. And then we can ship that to the DA's office. Where we don't know the answer is when we get a public records request on body cam footage. How long is that gonna take to process when we have to redact some information and do different things on that? We withheld on body cameras when the legislation first came out and people now had access to body cam footage and the public records requests were through the roof and it just tied up cities for months. It's kind of tapered off recently. So to answer that question, give me about a year into the program and I'll be able to answer that. So I don't know. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you all can be the first to know on the council. The very sad vehicle pedestrian incident we had last week. It was our license plate readers that caught the car coming back into the community around midnight that night, I think, and alerted our officers to be able to go pick it up and gave them probable cause to make an arrest.
Thank you for sharing. Hopefully that's.
The report that you shared that night. When you said how that, with the time frame, I bet that LPRs made a big difference on that. I've talked to a couple of the officers too that have talked about the difference that the LPRs have made in their being able to find somebody, find some person, someone they needed to go talk to. So I think that that's been a great addition, will continue to be an asset for us. That's why I think we are willing to make investments in our community to enhance our officers' ability to serve the public. I think that's the big thing. And like, one of my questions here is, how do the officers feel? How does the police department feel? Are they positive about community support, or do they feel like they're rowing upstream? You know, if the police force feels good about being out in the community and talking to people, and they get positive feedback from people, that makes our officers happy, makes our community happy. How are we doing with that? Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
And then the last on the body cams. The last few years, there have been a lot of public requests. But those are billable hours, right? I mean, we bill them for the public record requests.
Yes, it's on an individual, well, it's by a policy, but yes, we do.
And then I look at all of the things that have happened in the last few years where officers have been accused of all kinds of things. I would think that those things would help protect our officers and our integrity, increase our integrity, police force.
Okay, Counselor Clark. Just to make sure, I want to kind of, before we move into the conversation for next steps, I want to make sure that we're clear on kind of our charge in that we can have these conversations and we can get this information. I see there's like two tasks in front of us. One is we are going to get this information and do our work as a task force and make a recommendation to the council the second meeting in November. Is that on what am I understanding that are we making a recommendation to the council for the vote on the second meeting in November? So I think I'm asking for kind of us to go back and really, maybe if we need to review it, or you did, Mr. Brown, but are we making a recommendation on that, or is the council as a whole discussing that issue in the second meeting in November?
Let me verify that. I think I have it right in front of me, but
Okay. Take your
As long as you're not billing us.
time.
Minute by minute.
if I gotta stop the clock, then I'm gonna. All right, so on June 2nd, the council voted to postpone the decision of the police services fee until the next council meeting in November, until the second council meeting in November 2025, pending receipt of revenue numbers. So it looks like that decision is to be based on the work of the Long Range Planning Task Force. The work of the group then was,
About the funding models and the funding.
yes.
Perfect. Okay, I just want to make sure that we kept our tasks straight and didn't get them go. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I think now the conversation is on next steps. So we have asked for a lot of information. What is a reasonable time to gather that information for us to review and discuss as a task force?
Okay, so today's Thursday, Saturday, okay?
That's fine.
Okay,
Which Saturday?
good question.
I think the biggest hurdle I'm gonna come up with is really the calls for service and types of calls. We have numerous categories. A lot of that other stuff I've already looked into and I've started pulling. I'm thinking if we had, I don't know what your time frame is, but a couple weeks would be plenty. I think that would be fun. Because a lot of this stuff we can pull pretty easily. And then I can get a team together to work on it. I don't know, on the city side, I would have to ask Sam Andy Brown about anything that, Mr. Wood needs a poll or, those type of things.
Yeah, I think we can align with the police department's timelines on the financial end and working with them.
So if I think this is for knowing that fellow task force members, in my head, I think our next steps would be, we get that information and we review it, and we then come together for a meeting for us to discuss it and have that dialogue amongst ourselves and amongst our police department team and our city and our administrative team. Is there something else I'm missing for next steps?
I don't think so, just sitting down, going over, do we have what we need, and getting a clearer picture, just discussing between us, I think is really all we need on the next step. And then we can decide, do we have enough? Can we make a decision and go to council from that point, or do we need to mull it over and meet one more time?
And I don't, just to be fully transparent, I don't expect that we would be able to get all of that information and have that and review it and ask our questions and have that discussion in one meeting. So I think that once we get that information and we review it, we have that first meeting, it might take another meeting or two to get through everything. And I'm expecting that all of that information will then lead to more questions and maybe, like, oh, we need to do a deeper dive into this piece of information or to this data set, that kind of. So I just don't want, I want to set expectations that we probably have conversations about that information over multiple meetings before we're ready to make our recommendation. So
In order to be fair to our department, to our citizens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where my mind was going, the same place, is iterate it and get something in front of you, and then you'll be able to tell us, like you've done tonight, of, hey, this is holes that we need to fill to be able to tell a complete story. Right.
Okay, thank you. Counselors, is that kind of, those next steps and kind of the time frame of multiple meetings, does that jive with kind of what you were expecting?
Well,
Just have to do, perfect.
so you're looking at the 9th and 23rd, is that kind of what you're thinking about?
I'm gonna need you to hold it in the back of the room. So the 23rd of October, but so 2 weeks from today would be the 9th, where we might have the bulk of the information. And then we will probably, I would expect, need a fair amount of time to digest it and review it and get our questions formulated. So I am curious about either what does 1, 2, 3, 4. What does the 27th of October look like? That's on Monday. For a meeting.
I think the council has 2 work sessions scheduled for October. Yeah.
What about the 28th? That's the last 1, 2, 3, 4th Tuesday.
May meetings.
Yeah,
That's got.
nothing in mind.
I'll be gone that time, but Chief's here and I can have Tim come to support. And I'll certainly work with the chief in between then and now.
I hope that we need you on the speaker, like regular meeting. I'm already missing that one. So, is the 28th doable? Okay, and Mr. Brown, you're comfortable, I mean, we're not gonna make any decisions, but obviously we would just be questions and.
Yeah, absolutely, because we'll be working together to support this and so Tim will be involved anyway, I'm sure.
Okay, the 28th at 6 o'clock looks like a good day. And those. And that material will be when we will be able to get it by this. Ninth or the 9th or the 11th, whatever the 10th is, right? That's 2 weeks. That gives us another 2 weeks to review it. Does that work?
Yes, works for me.
And if that's not enough time, like, just let us know.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot.
Yeah, I can get you the bulk of everything, whatever we're missing, I'll certainly let City Manager Brown know, and then we can figure out if we can get it fast enough. If not, we'll give you a realistic timeline when we can.
Cause even if we get more, like that residual information like a week later, I think that's okay, cause. Yeah, it's gonna take, yeah, it'll take us time to get through it.
Sure.
Before that meeting, so, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think getting the data is easy but then putting it together and synthesizing is be challenge.
Yeah.
Something.
Use the
Correct,
ELT.
yeah. And I think then
Get some.
taking the time.
Yeah.
To talk through that data and making sure that we understand it, so that there's clear conversation. And her explanation frankly for that data, so we don't have. So everybody can hear that conversation.
And we can understand it and we can articulate it.
There you go.
That's that would be the big thing, and we're after the meeting.
Is there anything else, for the good of the order, before? Counselor Durant, Counselor Fuller? Chief?
I'm happy.
Write that down.
Nothing for me.
Mr. Brown?
He's happy, I'm happy. If you're happy, I'm happy.
It's more like if he's happy, I'm happy.
All right, with no further discussion or business, and I apologize, I didn't ask if we had public comment. I wanted to make sure. No, I'm good. Okay, awesome, thank you, and I'm sorry, I will make a note of that next time. With so with no other discussion, I adjourn the police beat task force